you will get that access, no problem. So okay, now I'm going to discuss this integration of request response patterns. So that initial pattern is, so what is the request and what is the response? So now you have your Salesforce org here, right? And you have another, for example, another application thing, consider like your SAP system. This is SFDC system, and this is your SAP system. Okay. Now, so you want to send a request from here to here.
Yes.
So when you send this request, and you will get a response from the SAP. So there are ways. For example, what are the ways? There is a synchronous way and asynchronous way. We'll talk about later. But so when you are sending this request, your SFDC has to wait for the response or not. So generally, when you send the request, right? You if you're waiting for a response, and your Salesforce application, whenever you execute some task or if you initiate some process, so your your process will start to execute line by line, right? So in that some particular line, you started calling to the external system. So then your thread will stop there, and it will keep on waiting to get the response. Correct? So,
Okay.
yeah. Then that is we call request and response pattern. Okay. This also we call it as synchronous pattern. So your main thread will wait for this response. So
Okay.
so till it receives the response, it will not proceed to execute the next line. For example, consider like you have for example, you have written some code, line 1 2 3 4 5 6. There are 6 7 lines you have written. From third line, right? So from third line, you call this SAP system. And the fourth line will not be executed. So your process will wait till you receive the response.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So after you receive the response from the SAP system, then that fourth line will be executed.
Okay. Is there any default timeline is there, or it will keep on waiting?
Yeah. Good question. Yeah. So usually Salesforce, the default is at 10 seconds. Okay. It is the default time settings, but you can improve till 120 seconds. That means 2 minutes. So if you didn't set any time response time, then default time is 10 seconds only. It will wait for 10 seconds. If your response didn't come within that 10 seconds frame, then it will consider as a failure. Okay. It will it will continue with the next line, or it will give you based on that if you do any validations, and the fault code will be written. So based on that, if you do anything, it will return the error code, and you can proceed with the error code. Okay. But your system tree will not wait for you anymore that for the response. But in some scenarios, you knows that this SAP system always slow. 10 seconds is not suffice, and you want to improve, then you can set this response time up to 120 seconds. But more than 120 seconds, Salesforce will not allow you.
Okay.
Okay. This is one pattern, and there is another pattern we call it as a fire and forget pattern. Okay. So let's discuss about that as well. So what we call is fire and forget. So what is this fire and forget pattern? For example, again you have a Salesforce application and you have the SAP system. So consider like scenarios. Okay. Now, so you, for example, consider a real-time scenario where you need this fire and forget pattern. For example, in your application, so whenever user does some kind of operation, for example, he completes a one payment, right? So or else he created some account, right? So you want to send to the some external system, or you want to send to the respect to sales rep, or that respect to director or CEO, saying that hey, some particular person has created one account or completed one opportunity. So that kind of notification you want to send. But that notification, sending the notification, the template format, and these things are handled by, they have some legacy system in SAP system. So that notification part is handling by the third party system. So what all you have to do is, uh, you have to notify that, you have to send a request to the third party system saying that one opportunity has been closed, or one account has been created to the third party system. So when you send this request to the third party system, for example, you send that request to third party system. Now, you know, because this is just a notification, right? It's not like you don't need to wait for the response. Just only
Mm.
what you want to make sure is that the third party system has successfully received a request from the Salesforce. So that is
Mm.
the only confirmation you needed. You
Yeah.
don't need to wait till that third party system sent to the either your CEO or whoever in a hierarchical management, in a hierarchical role, above that role. So till that person receives that respective message, till that point of time, your Salesforce system no need to wait. That process no need to wait, right? Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So that is the
Mm.
real scenario. So in this is the fire and forget pattern. What really happens is, when once that source system sends the request to the target system, then target system just gives the confirmation, like acknowledgement it gives.
Okay.
So, so
Not response. Only the acknowledgement. After that, no use of that response, right?
correct, it will gives you the acknowledgement, so that Salesforce understand that, okay,
Mm.
source system has received that response, so I no need to worry.
Mm.
And
Okay.
what it does, source system process the request. There are again two scenarios. Sometimes source system wants the response but not immediately. That is the one scenario. And sometimes source system doesn't want that response itself. It just wants the only acknowledgement,
Okay.
right? So generally in real time use cases, what generally happens is, so, for example, you have a legacy system, third-party system. So somebody will create a account in account in Salesforce. So you want to create that same account in a third-party system. Once third-party system creates, then third-party system will generate some unique identifiers, some to establish the relation between source system and external system. Once they have done that from their end, they also wants to give that updated account back to the Salesforce. Some
Mm-hmm.
extra kind of information they want to give back to the Salesforce. But uh,
Mm.
this transaction, Salesforce doesn't want to happen in a synchronous manner. So it can happen when that response can come back to the Salesforce even later point also. There is no dependency. So in that is the case. So first, let's go one by one. First, Salesforce sends the request.
Okay.
So first, Salesforce send the request, right? And it receives the acknowledgement. Once acknowledgement receives, what say SAP does, SAP process that request and it gives the response at later point.
Okay.
So this is the response. Once response received, Salesforce will process that response. You got it right. First, to make it simple, so let me write in step by step. General, what will happen? First, source system sends the request to the external system. And second, you're able to see that, right?
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And external system gives the acknowledgement to the source system. So yeah, there are scenarios. If, for example, you have not received the acknowledgement from the source system, right? So if you are using Salesforce inbuilt functionalities, so Salesforce also gives you the some inbuilt functionalities where you no need to write any kind of code. In that point of time, Salesforce itself will take care of resending the request within a some timeline frame. So we no need to worry. But otherwise,
Okay.
you are writing some piece of code, so there are scenarios where we need to write some piece of code to connect to the external systems. So that point of time, if you not received within a time frame line, for example, you send the request and you waited for 1 minute or 2 minutes, but you still not received acknowledgement from the third system. Maybe third system can be down, right? So there are other scenarios like suddenly when you send the request, your internet gone down, right? So there are multiple scenarios where your request might fail. So in those scenarios, you should know that how to send the request again. So it depends on your business requirement, how many retrieval mechanism you have to implement. But that in detail we'll discuss in future. So how we can implement that effective retrieval mechanism. So what are the best ways to do that? That part we can cover later. But now we have to concentrate what is that generally fire and forget pattern means. Okay. So one first step, what we did, we send the request to the external system, and usually what we expect the acknowledge from the external system saying that, hey, I have received the request. So you don't need to worry, right?
Okay. Okay.
And after that, so Salesforce source system receives that acknowledgement, and it continues. It will not wait. Source system will not wait for the response at all. Okay, continue
Okay.
with the process. And after that fourth point, later point, SAP will process the request whenever the resources are available whenever SAP system wants to process based on their CPU limit, based on considering that if they have any batch process or any schedule. So whenever SAP system is wants to process, it will process that request, and it will gives the response to the source system. Now target system sends the response to the source system. Then source system will process the response. So you understand, right? What is fire and forget?
Yeah,
So
got
in
it.
request and reply pattern, whenever you send the request, you continuously wait for the response, right?
Mm.
But
Mm.
in fire and forget pattern, you will not wait. So you send the request, you immediately receive that acknowledgement. So you no need to wait for the acknowledgement, but you want to make sure that you have received the acknowledgement. Then you will just you can verify in the response. But you will after some point of time again you will receive the response from the external system, then you will process that response. So how we will receive the response and in programmatic way, we'll discuss these callback functions and all, but this is the theoretical concept.
Okay. Yeah, got it.
So if you see here in this slide, same thing I have explained, right? So here consider like a source system is our SAP system or .NET or Java application, and target system is the Salesforce. So client application prepares and submits a service request to a server, right? So so your source system will prepare the request and it sends to the target system. Then the target system process the request and return the response. So these all are happening in a synchronous manner. So synchronous manner in the sense in the same thread.
Okay.
Your client application always wait for the your response so from the target system.
Mm.
Then coming to
Okay.
the this is called fire and forget pattern or callback pattern. So in this pattern, once you send the request, right, then you will receive the server receives and receive the request and returns the acknowledgement it has not processed the request. So it will not process their request, but it just gives that like hey, I have received the request, so don't worry. But once after processing that request, then it does a callback and it sends that response back to the Salesforce. So Salesforce processes that request, and if Salesforce wants to give again, acknowledgement back to the, hey, I have received a request from you, and again that back, so the transaction continues. The same pattern continues. You understand, right? What I'm trying to say. For example,
Yeah,
when
got it.
source system sends the request, target system receives and gives the acknowledgement to back to the source system. After some
Okay.
point of time, SAP system
Mm.
sends the response back to the Salesforce. So
Mm.
SAP system should understand, right? I have sent that request to the SAP SFDC system, whether that request is
Mm.
received or not. So for that purpose, Salesforce system again sends back to the acknowledgement to SAP system.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, got it.
You have any questions or is it clear?
Yeah, it's clear.
Okay, great. Now we are jumping to actual Salesforce integration. We'll talk about the now. So far, we have discussed in a general. Uh, whatever we have discussed, characteristics or request and response patterns. So these are not in terms of exactly Salesforce, in terms of any web application, right? Right. So .NET, Java, or any framework you take. So these are actual characteristics. It doesn't change from program. Salesforce to Salesforce to .NET or .NET, whatever the technology. These characteristics are same. But now we are going to discuss in terms of Salesforce provided features, Salesforce what capabilities it has, and what are the limitations it has. So all these things from here onwards we'll discuss everything in terms of the Salesforce. Okay. So generally, as we discussed in last session, so I mentioned that, right? Salesforce Salesforce always wants to gives you a declarative manner. So they always wants to achieve the functionalities in a declarative manner. So if if they're not able to achieve in declarative manner, then only they will give you a option for programmatic way.
Okay.
So so if you talk about the integration, so there are integrations. If you want to call to the external system, or external system wants to call to you, you no need to write any piece of code. Just if you follow the instructions, Salesforce admin, if you are an admin, then you can, with the point and clicks, you can do a configuration. You can you can with the point and clicks, you can configure, and you can enable that feature, so that you can call to the third party systems, and third party systems also calls to you. But there are limitations, and there are scenarios where you can use that functionality, where you cannot use that functionality. That we'll talk later, but that we call it as a built declarative tools. Okay. So
Mm.
see here, Salesforce provides you a declarative tools, and also, for example, external systems want directly talk to the Salesforce. So we have, since you already have little knowledge on Salesforce, so right, Salesforce provides you standard updates like account, opportunity, contact,
Mm-hmm.
and also you can
Yeah.
create a custom objects in Salesforce. So if somebody wants to create some data, or somebody wants to retrieve the data from these standard objects or custom objects, so you no need to create a any web services part. Salesforce by default supports you. It provides the APIs, so it provides the visuals. So if you use that visuals or REST APIs, right, if you follow that guidelines, then you can achieve, you can retrieve, or you can create the records. But if you want to if you want to expose some customized customized functionality, then you have to write a web services. You have to you have to you have to create the classes, and you have to provide the functions. So for that also, Salesforce has provided the APIs. Okay, so that is another thing. So using Salesforce provided APIs, you can access to the Salesforce database.
Okay.
So that is the one way. And the third way is, for example, you have a Excel sheet, or some third party toolkits. So from the Excel sheet, you want to import all the data from the Salesforce, right? So that is also, Salesforce has provided some plugins. So using that plugins, or whatever you call it as adapters, so using that, you can import directly from the Salesforce.
Okay.
Yeah, but this third point you rarely use, because if you that is if you are working on mostly on data migration kind of work, then you might need this. Otherwise, you as a developer, mostly you may not use this feature. But what feature you continuously will work, you work on this programmatic way of accessing the Salesforce, and declarative way of accessing the Salesforce. Okay.
Okay.
So these
Okay.
are three things. You have any questions on this slide?
No, like we have to see where to use the default configuration one and where to use the programmatical integration.
Sure, sure. These are the main. See, if you understand this,
Mm,
how you use the declarative tools and how you'll use the
mm.
API programmatic ways and tools and toolkits. If you understand completely, then I can say that you understand that integration.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all. uh, so
Okay.
these are like we brought everything into a single slide, saying that these are that I mean different ways. So if you understand that each way, then you understand that integration as well. So there is no other way. You knows that then you knows that everything about the integration, Salesforce integration.
Okay.
So moving on to the next slide. So what are the APIs Salesforce providing? So if you see is that I told you that you can access with the APIs as well. So what are the APIs Salesforce providing? Salesforce providing SOAP APIs, REST APIs, Charter REST APIs, and bulk APIs, streamlining APIs, metadata APIs. So right now at this moment, even don't think about these APIs, because
Mhm.
if you understand these APIs, 70 percentage of integration you will understand. But at this moment, it is like too much for you to understand. If I explain what is SOAP, what is SOAP API, what is REST API, then it gives you, it will like, no, it will confuse you. At this moment, just I want to make sure that these are the APIs. At least you just heard. If I say, if some point in next slide or any other next slide, if I say SOAP API, you felt like I never heard that what is SOAP API or REST API or bulk API before. Kind of you should not feel, but I will discuss each SOAP API. At least we'll discuss around half an hour kind of on the each API.
Okay.
So you don't need to worry about that. You will get that every minimal details of this API. We'll do that hands-on on the APIs. Even I'll give you the exercises, so you will get familiar on these APIs. Okay. Next, moving on to, okay. So we'll go one by one. Let me open that screen. Okay, so I said right, why we use that web services to happen the communication between different applications. We need to use that web services. So how now we come into place? Okay, communication happens, but how it will happen? So initially, so they came up with the SOAP technology. Okay, so what does SOAP means? Simple object access protocol. Okay, so again this is the acronym. So it is the acronym for simple object access protocol. Okay, now think like we have a Salesforce, right? And you have a SAP system. So usually whenever you sending the request to the SAP system, what information usually you want? So the first thing you want is to which application I am connecting to, right? So you want to send a request, you should know that which application I'm connecting. There are in the over the internet, there could be thousands of SAP systems, right? There could be millions of SAP applications. in out of the millions of applications, exactly which application you want to connect. So you must know the IP address of that particular application. Correct, right?
Yeah.
So if you know the IP address of that application, then only you knows that which application exactly you want to connect. Otherwise, it's like there are millions of applications. You cannot find that which application you want to connect directly. So that information you need. And what other information? Okay, now you knows that which application you want to connect. Then what information, what other information you want to know? You want to know what are the services, what are the functionalities that application is providing. Correct, right? So for example, think like your Salesforce system wants to connect to the usually your SAP system. So think like your SAP system will gives you the account details, opportunity detail, or it will allow you to create leads. Okay, so creating the lead is one kind of a functionality. Creating the account is one kind of functionality, and creating contact is one kind of functionality, right? So your SAP
Okay.
system will provide you all these functionalities, but which functionality
Mm.
is providing, you should aware, right?
Mm.
Then only you will ask your SAP system, okay, I had somebody has created accounts in my system. I also want to give you, I want also you to create the same accounts in your system. Like that, you want to, you should know that to understand what type of functionalities SAP system is providing. Okay, you knows that, okay, these are the functionalities are providing. What next? You also should know that what is the input parameters of that functions. Correct, right? So you know that create account, but you also should know that that function, what are the input parameters I have to pass.
Okay.
Because you know the function name, but you don't know what input parameters needs to be passed. Then you cannot pass the
Mm.
data, right? You should know that
Yeah.
what information you want to pass to that particular function. And
Mm.
you should be aware of that what response I will get if I call that function, what response I will receive, whether they will receive that account information with the updated data, or just they will information that hey, successfully account created, that kind of information. So you must aware of that what kind of a response you will get it back, so that you can take that action accordingly.
Okay.
So so these are the basic information. Any system wants to connect to the external system, or any external system wants to connect to the source system. These are the basic details they need. Okay. So if you say that visual, what is the visual? So generally we call it as a visual provides you all this information what we have discussed.
Okay.
Okay, right? If you open the any visual, you can see that, for example, Salesforce has given a visual to SAP system. That means Salesforce is giving the uh, Salesforce functionality details where Salesforce servers are resides, and what are the functions that Salesforce providing to the SAP system, so that SAP system can connect back to the Salesforce. So that SAP system can send a request and SAP system can take the response, because SAP system knows what Salesforce functionalities and what input parameter Salesforce receives when they are sending any query, and what response Salesforce return backs after processing that request.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when we come to that Salesforce, okay. So usually Salesforce provides you two type of visuals. Okay. There are other kind of visuals also provides. It's like only 4 5 kind of visuals, but 90 90% is usually we use two kind of visuals. One we call is a partner visual, okay, and second is enterprise visual, okay. So there are other visuals like Apex visual, what we call tooling API visual, metadata visual. So there are other visual as well, but mostly this Apex visual will be based on metadata visual. So when you use, you want to eh, I'm hearing a lot of disturbance in your end. So Rupamika, for example, you can mute your system.
Okay.
So whenever you want to speak, you can unmute, and then we can discuss. So in that case, I will not hear any background voice from your end.
Okay, fine. Yeah.
Okay. So mostly these are the visuals. For example, when you will use other visuals, so for example, you want to create a some kind of application. It's not like a normal application. For example, um, what are the applications? Workbench, right? So from Workbench, if you don't know, no worries. If you want Salesforce metadata, you have create Salesforce not data. It's like a metadata, right? Salesforce APIs, Apex classes. So that kind of information you want, in that is the case, you will use this metadata visual or tooling APIs, this kind of. Otherwise, in normal scenario, normal web application, or you want to work with Salesforce applications, normal way, you will use 90% this partner visual, enterprise visual. Okay, but you should be aware of that, when to use a partner visual and when to use a enterprise visual. So partner visual is a loosely coupled. I'll explain you what is loosely coupled, and this is like a tightly coupled. So what does it mean is loosely coupled? If you download the partner visual, so partner visual, it will not give you any much information. For example, it will not give you that, for example, what is that account object, and what are the fields inside that account object, and what is the type of that field account object contains. So these information partner visual will not provide you. So it just gives you some generic schema kind of, but it will not give you that exact structure of the your payload, I mean your input parameters. Okay, so that is the loosely coupled. But enterprise visual, it will gives you, for example, you want to create an account, and it will gives you that what is that account, and what are that fields inside that account, what is that API names, what is it type, it's a string or integer or date. So all this information enterprise visual gives you. But okay, so generally what we does with these visuals is, for example, you have given this digital to the your third party application, right? So third party application wants to understand what kind of services Salesforce is providing. So and they want to access a Salesforce, so you generated the visual and you provide that, you have given that visual to the SAP system. Okay, so SAP system, what it will do, it will create a stub. So what does it mean by stub means? Uh, so it is, I told you, right? Visual is nothing but some specifications. It will give you the specifications, right? But with that specifications you cannot access. Using that specifications you can access. But how you will, what way you will use? You will create a classes For example, SAP means you will create a SAP classes, or if you're using .NET, you will create a .NET classes. If you're using Java, you will create a Java classes. So you will create a dynamic classes you will create out of this visual, and using that classes you will connect to the Salesforce system. But uh, we are in a future, I mean in coming classes, we will create a stub. I will show you how to create a stub classes and how we will access that external applications. I will give you that demo on that as well, and you also you will do a hands-on, or you will do that exercise on that one. But right now that is the concept. So partner visual is loosely coupled, and enterprise visual is tightly coupled. But to understand better, let me open the org and let me show you that partner visual and enterprise visual how it looks. Okay. This is my personal org.
Okay.
So I hope you already you should have one Salesforce developer org, right?
Yeah. It's there.
Yeah, same org even I have. Uh, so if I go to API under integration, just click on APIs. Okay. If you see here, so you can see that what are the visuals. You can see that enterprise visual. You can see that partner visual. Okay. You can see that apex visual, and you can see that metadata type visual, and you can see the tooling visual. So there are other like lot of visuals, but mostly you will not use all these visuals. Mostly you will use enterprise visual and partner visual. So I said right, enterprise visual is strongly typed. Let me open that visual and partner. Click on this generate partner visual. Okay, click on generate. This already generated. So if you see here in the comments, this is the partner visual. So partner visual is a loosely typed. So I'll tell you what does it mean. See, don't worry about this. It seems like see very big, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, if you see at first glance, it will be very difficult. But in usual scenarios, if I get the time, I'll explain you that. Understanding visual is not necessary, okay, but you should have a basic understanding, so that will be helpful. Whenever you receive the visual, if you know the basic things minimum, so it will be helpful for you. You will understand that what are the functions it's providing, and where is the what is the endpoint URL for that system. Okay.
Okay.
So if you see here, this is the enterprise version. So, for example, let me type an account. If you see that in I said right, it's like a strongly typed enterprise visual is a strongly typed. So what does it mean? The strongly typed means it gives you that every object in your system. For example, take that account. So it will tell you that this is the account object, and under that account object, what are the fields are inside. Okay. So if you see, these all are the fields. So okay, what is the use of by giving this? So the main advantage is, for example, I said right, using this visual you will create a stub is nothing but a one class. You will generate the class. So if it is your Java, you will it will create a Java class, uh, and if it is .NET, it will create a .NET class. So for example, now it is the account is one object, right? So it will create one class with the name account, and each field it will create as a attribute inside that account. So inside that class, you know, right, what are the attributes? It's like a variable. You declare that variable, right? For example, there is a thing. So for example, how it will create, it will create like a class account. So for example, field public string name, public string phone, public string email. So it will create so like this. Okay, you no need to create.
Okay.
So for
Mm-hmm.
example, you want to call that create account functionality.
Mm-hmm.
So what you have to do is, you have to create that object for this account class. Account is equal to new account. Okay, and account dot name, just give the name test. Account dot phone, give that phone number 999 something. Okay, so like that, now you create an account, and you based on the visual, again it will create another class to call that class with that methods, right? For example, it will also create like a call uh, SFDC payload service kind of function. It's just like I'm writing you some exemplary function. No need to be name and convenience are exactly same, but I'm just writing for your understanding. Public void create account AC. Okay, so in this class, you just initiate the account, and what you have to do to call that, you have to create an object for this one. Use of service, uh, use of service soap service. Okay, service dot create account of, right? You will pass this object. So only this logic you will write. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you no need to write to create account and how it will call and how will connection establish. That logic you no need to write, and you no need to create a class with that respective parameters.
Okay.
When you create a stub, all this information and the connection info, all this connection information, automatically your framework will create. For example, if you are using SAP, your SAP framework will create using the visual. If you have .NET application, your .NET application will create this this code using the visual. If you are using Salesforce, you also can create a stub using the visual, uh, and your Salesforce will generate the Apex classes like this, and you no need to like create these functions. All you have to do is just have to execute the logic part. So what is the logic part? This uh, providing the data onto the account and just calling that respective function.
Okay.
So
Okay.
so that purpose, so what visual is giving to provide that input parameters details and output parameter details. So it gives you in terms of a if you see that complex type, so we call it generally these complex types will be called from the message tag. So there is a message tag as well. So actually this complex type will provide you all this information, right?
Okay.
Close down this complex type, then you see another complex type. If you close this one,
Mm-hmm.
account contact role. So what are the objects in your system? Account feed, all this information will be provided using the enterprise visual. But same
Okay.
when comes to the partner visual, if you search with account, right, so you will not see that account information. That schema will not be there in
Uh,
enterprise visitor. It will
some
not.
of the fields are there.
Yeah,
No?
few information is needed because convert to lead, that kind of information is a mandatory thing. Okay, that
Okay.
that relation you should need. So whatever basic is needed, that will gives you. But any object, that object kind of level, it will not give you. It will not gives you. You cannot see that
Okay.
account or opportunity details, contact details. You will not see this lead convert. This is the standard lead behavior is there, right? So that,
Yeah.
yeah, that functionality is like a few very few limited functionalities it gives you, but 95% it will not gives you. So, and partner visual is a very lightweighted visual. It's like completely typed.
Krishna, sorry to disturb. Actually, I just booked this meeting room for 1 hour. People came.
uh,
So, can we continue from tomorrow?
sure, sure, no problem. Uh, okay,
Okay.
okay. We'll connect tomorrow. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Bye. Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.